Well, we'll see what happens to the Annan plan. It clearly is not being complied with by the Syrian regime. We had recently yet another statement by the UN Security Council unanimously condemning the violence that continues and the fact that there remains the inability to have a ceasefire and to begin a political process that is central to the Annan plan. We need to have a political solution to this conflict. In order to get that political solution, we need to increase the pressure on the Assad regime to begin a political process that will lead to a political transition and the end of this regime. That pressure must increase, and it must be economic, it must be diplomatic, and it must be by other means in order to ensure that the day will come in which there will be a political transition and the regime will have to leave power. In the case of Libya, NATO as an organization agreed that there had to be 3 criteria for intervention before a decision could even be made. First, there had to be a demonstrable need for such intervention. Clearly, in the case of Syria, there is a real need given the indiscriminate shelling by the government forces of the civilian population. But in addition to demonstrable need, there had to be clear regional support for intervention. In Libya, the Arab League called for the imposition of a no-fly zone, and indeed when NATO acted, a number of Arab League members participated in the operation themselves. And there has to be, in Libya, there had to be a sound legal basis for intervention. And in NATO, in order to get a consensus at 28 countries, that sound legal basis will most likely have to be a UN Security Council resolution. Indeed, we did, in the case of Libya, have a UN Security Council resolution that called for the imposition of an arms embargo and a no-fly zone and the protection of civilians through the use of military force. We don't have, in the case of Syria, a call for intervention by the region. Indeed, there is no call for military intervention by the opposition as such. So we don't have the regional support, and we lack a sound legal basis given that the UN Security Council has not acted to enforce a mandate for military action.